This is your daily dose of ethics. Today we will be discussing the last installment of the sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill, and we shall specifically be discussing the global food crisis. Today we will be sharing thoughts and argument for solving the global food crisis. What is a global food crisis? A global food crisis is a long and extreme global shortage of food which results in deaths and is ostensibly caused by high food prices caused by poor growing conditions and the rising costs of fuel. A 2014 CIA report estimates gross world product at $100 trillion. That's trillion, equal to 100 followed by 12 noughts. The first view that we offer, view 1, is if we take 10%, which is a biblical tithe of the gross world product, we would have $10 trillion. Alternatively, we look at view 2. Let's say that there's a 10% profit on the gross world product of $100 trillion. Then we would be left with a gross world profit of $10 trillion. If we then apply the tithe to only the profit, we would get $1 trillion. That is to say the $10 trillion gross world profit multiplied by 10%. In a UN report of 2016, they estimate that there are close to 1 billion hungry people in the world. If we take the tithe calculated in 4 above, namely 1 trillion, and we divide by the 1 billion hungry people, we get $1,000 per hungry person per year. The question then is this enough to feed one person? Following on from the second view, that is to say 10% profit on a gross world profit of 100 trillion, We then apply the tithe to only the profit, and we got 1 trillion by taking 10 trillion multiplying by 10%. A 2008 UN report from Unicef and others says it needs $30 billion a year to resolve the global food crisis. This is equivalent to $35 billion in 2017. Just quickly, that is 35 billion divided by 1 billion hungry people equals $35 per person per year. I doubt whether you can feed somebody for $35 per person per year, but we'll take their figure for now. If we take the $1 trillion from point 4 above and divide by the 35 billion needed to solve the global food crisis from point 7 above, then we should be able to solve the global food crisis almost 30 times over. And we could potentially use the balance for education and health. So we then ask the question, what is the problem? Why aren't we doing this? Continuing with the third view that we offer, Forbes in 2016 estimates global defense, that's arms and those for defense, spending, now abbreviated as GDS, at $1.7 trillion per year. The 2020 estimate is put at $2 trillion per annum. When you divide the figure in 10 above, the $1.7 trillion, and divide by the world population of 7.3 billion people, we spend $230 per person per year on global defense spending. Personally, if I had a choice, I'd rather give that money to a person that I know that is starving than spend it to kill some person I don't know in a foreign land. The irony is that that person that we're fighting is probably fighting because he's hungry. The Bible says we should turn our swords into plough blades and our spears into pruning shears. Isaiah chapter 2 verse 4 says, "And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more." In Micah chapter 4 verse 3, "And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more." Joel chapter 3 verse 10, "Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong." We now offer view 4. So if we reduce global defense spending of $1.7 trillion by 2%, we then get a figure of $33.72 billion. If we divert this money to food for the poor hungry, we can resolve the world food crisis. It is estimated that 15% of total spending on weapons account for bribes. Jane's Defense Budgets reports of 2016 estimates a global total spend of $1.6 trillion on weapons or arms. So, if we take 1.6 trillion on global arms spending and multiply by the estimated 15% that goes to bribes, then annual bribes equates to 1.6 trillion times 15%, which equals 240 billion a year. If we eliminate the global defense spending bribery, then we can resolve the global food crisis almost 7 times over. How do we get this figure? We take 240 billion, which is spent on bribery. We divide it by the 35 billion required to resolve global food crisis, and we get a figure of 6.86, which is approximately equal to the 7. Remember, where there is a briber, there is a bribee. Again, the balance of the 240 billion can go to education and health. To restate, where there is a bribee, there is also a briber. In closing, remember, we, you and I, pay the taxes and vote for the politicians that spend it. So it is our money that they, the people we elected to represent us, are spending on arms rather than food. I, personally, would rather feed somebody than kill them. Would you?